Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Iraj, your English teacher. I hope you all are doing well. So in this video I am going to explain you few more chapters from your novel The Witches, and these are those chapters. So let's begin with chapter number 19, Mr. Jenkins and his son. So if you remember, in the previous chapter grandmama and boy see Mr. Jenkins coming towards them. So this is how this chapter starts. Mr. Jenkins comes to them and starts asking about his son Bruno. He cannot find him and he's sure that he's with the boy, so he starts questioning grandmama about Bruno and wants to know where Bruno is. So grandmama confirms once again that Bruno is now a mouse, but Mr. Jenkins keeps refusing, and at this point Bruno himself just pops out of the handbag of grandmama and starts speaking. So seeing this all, Mr. Jenkins is just shocked and, needless to say, less than thrilled about the situation, especially because Mr. Jenkins hates mice and they have a cat at home. That's like kind of a really bad combination. And everyone else in the room is watching Mr. Jenkins scream and yell, but they can't see Bruno, so they have no idea that what's actually going on there. So Mr. Jenkins demands to know who did this to his son. So grandmama points to the Grand High Witch, and despite a warning from grandmama that she is quite dangerous and could turn him into a cockroach maybe, Mr. Jenkins just starts marching towards her. So this is where this chapter ends, where Mr. Jenkins is moving towards the Grand High Witch to ask that why she did this to his son. In addition to being really shocked, Mr. Jenkins is quite angry as well, and he says that he'll call his lawyers and sue Grand High Witch for what she did to his son. But grandmama warns him that this will create an even worse situation than what right now the situation is. So let's see what happens next, and let's begin our next chapter. Okay, so the name of the next chapter is The Triumph. Triumph means success or victory, and let's see why this chapter is named so. So just as Mr. Jenkins is storming towards the witch's table, there is a terrible and loud shriek. All of a sudden, the Grand High Witch is standing on the table, waving her arms in the air, and soon enough all the witches are doing the exact same thing. Then, all at once, they just freeze in silence, and before you know it, they are transforming into mice and shrinking and like growing fur, the whole 9 yards. So our narrator is confused as to how it happened so quickly, but then grandmama reminds him that just like him, they had all an overdose. Like one bottle of the potion was good enough for making about 500 mice, and so the alarm clock timing just got messed up. All of the witches have now turned into mice. So the cooks and waiters start running around with pans and knives trying to kill the witch mice. All the adults are screaming, scared, but the children in the room seem to get the sense that something cool is happening. In all the commotion, grandmama just brings Bruno back to his parents and heads outside to grab a taxi. She's leaving all of their luggage at the hotel and leaving town as quickly as possible. The taxi driver notices the mouse, who grandmama plainly says is her grandson, and the taxi driver warns her that mice tend to breed really fast. That was kind of a joke that he makes. So anyway, grandmama tells our narrator that they are heading back to Norway together and they soak in their victory. So they are quite really happy that the plan that they made has just succeeded, and now they can finally head towards their home. So this is why the chapter was named The Triumph. So this is your home task for the third week. You have to find out the meanings of the given words. Another thing that you have to do is to write the character sketch of Bruno Jenkins and then answer the question, what was Mr. Jenkins' reaction when he got to know about Bruno? So proceeding towards the second last chapter of your novel and your fourth week, The Heart of a Mouse. So back in Norway, the grandmother and the boy invent a few things to make the house accessible for a mouse, since the boy is now a mouse and they are back to their home. Now, even though he is a mouse, the grandmother makes him brush his teeth and a bath every night. One night, they just start talking about what may have happened to Bruno and thinking that his parents could have had killed him. Then, in the calm of the warm evening, they start to talk about when the boy might die, now that he is just in a mouse body. So, grandmama says that mice usually live for only about 3 years, but that because he is a mouse person, he might live for around 9. The boy is surprisingly happy about this because he says he wants to die before his grandmother so that he doesn't have to live without her. Now they talk about how fast his heart beats as a mouse, so fast that you cannot hear individual beats but only a humming sound. So this was just a little scenario of now what is going into their house and now how they are living. Let's look towards the next chapter, that what happens in the end of the story. So now this is the last chapter of our novel. It's off to work we go. So one night they are having dinner and our narrator just asks the grandmother that what will happen now that they have destroyed the Grand High Witch. So when grandmama tells him that someone will replace her and that all the witches won't disappear, he is not pleased. He worries that everything they did was just for nothing. Like another Grand High Witch can still keep control all over other witches from other countries. So, however, the grandmother reveals to him that as soon as they got from England, she called the chief of police in Bournemouth and pretended to be the chief of police of Norway and got the Grand High Witch's address from the hotel. They realize that they can make plans to sneak in there and find out all about other witches in the world and take them all down one by turning them into mice and releasing cats to catch them. The story ends with the grandmother and the boy anticipating much work and excitement ahead of them, and since they have now a new plan, they are all excited. They will take an around the world trip and turn all the witches throughout the world into mice, and it will keep them busy for the rest of their lives. But they are up for the challenge and it surely will be fun. So this was the end of this amazing novel, The Witches. Now finally, let's see your home task for 4th week. You have been given some words. You have to find out their meanings, and there are a few questions like what is the main theme of the novel The Witches. Another one is that write down your favorite part from the novel, or which part did you enjoy the most and why is that so. The last one is a picture description. You have to describe a picture present on page number 201. That's all. Have a good weekend.